Yo, Edert, and happy Easter. For all you guys that hung around like I did up here, it's been real cool. Ghost Town in Joburg. Got a lot of training done. It was nice chill, nice braai. Hanging out by the pool with my wife. It's been wonderful. I am a little bit broken about not going down to Cape Town for the opening round of the National Enduros, but that said, we live in the world of media. I work in the world of media, and there's always eyes and spies on the ground that I can always tag. Great to see some good riding. Quite nice entries down there as well. I think a lot of guys did make a plan to get down there. It's always difficult to open up your national racing account in Cape Town, and the guys in Cape Town at the CSMX Club would have been sweating it a little bit, but it looks like they got some relatively decent numbers on the page. The Robertson area, dry as a bone. You know, those guys are really suffering with this drought, and I just hope it comes to an end at some point. But they made what they could out of what they had, but it was just powder, sand, rocks and more rocks. They brought on Altus de Vet as course director for 2018 for the National Enduros, and that's a good call as well. He knows the area very well. How he's going to cope with the rest of the areas should be okay as well as we travel around the country. You know, he's got about 10 years of racing under his belt, so he knows the areas quite well, and he's really started to develop into his role. He's going to be able to lay out some good tracks as we go along, so keep up the good work, Alti. The race itself, it was always going to be an interesting one. Most of the key players were in the mix and had made the plan to jump back from Europe. I'm talking about Wade and Double T. They made the trip. Obviously, their commitments are factory world tours, so racing for the Sherco factory and the Beta World factory. They're very committed to all the international races, and it's just cool that they can actually make a plan to get back and race the domestic season as best they can as well. You know, there's a lot of kids and riders that look up to these guys, so cool to have them back on international soil. The only rider that didn't make it back was Blake Goodsight. You know, he was running good numbers the whole way through last year, riding on the proudly Bidvest Yamaha on the 250 Smoker. He is actually moved up to the Premier class at Super Enduro level, meaning that he's across the pond there racing against the likes of, you know, Walker, Tadej Blazusiak, Harker. All, you know, these guys are absolute kings, and he's starting to get the numbers on the page. Just this last weekend at the final round, he handed over his World Championship crown from last season that he picked up to Kevin Gallis. So Kevin is our new Junior World title holder, and Cody Webb splats another #1 plate onto the factory KTM. So those were the guys that walked away with the junior and the Premier class titles for this season. But Blake got a 5.77 on the night, so that gives him some good numbers. He's qualifying inside the top 10 most rounds now, so he's definitely going to be back out there next year trying to challenge for podiums. It's definitely going to come at some point. It's definitely going to splat either a win, but I'm definitely predicting at some point next year it's going to be podiums in the Prestige class. So he was our only no-show really of the players from the international side. Of course, Brett Swanepoel still out through injury. He was definitely going to be in the mix, definitely a charger who was going to be looking for a top 3, maybe a top 5 placing on the Peps and Plastics factory Husky. He's still out through injury. So who was there? There was Wade and there was TT. Those were really the guys that we're going to be looking at for the overall wins. They're both racing in the E2 category this season, and it was Wade that took first blood with Double T in the #2 spot. So 2 E2 riders taking first and second place. The big surprise of the weekend, and what a huge story. Great to see a Cape Town local kid come good. And I've talked about this guy as the big kid for many years. You know, he's been out there racing in the E1 category on a 450. He's a monster of a kid. He's doing his best to try and skinny himself down as best as he can. And the results are hammering. 3rd place overall at a national enduro, and the first win that he has taken in the E1 category, William Oosthuizen. So absolutely huge ride coming out of him. Druma's Yamaha must have been losing their minds completely, because he is their local rider, local superstar, and man, I mean, he's been putting in the work. He's been training with William Gillett, pretty much riding every hour that he can, and the results are starting to fly. So that's huge. The other side of the coin, though, is the fact that some of the riders that really shone last year, champions in fact, champion on the gates last year was Scott Burvery. You know, you'd expect to see him coming out and defend and do a real solid job. He did get a third place in category, but he's not going to be happy about the results as it stood. Cape Town, he's had some real problems in Cape Town. I think it was last year he got a load of wire jammed up in his wheel. This year he'll have probably been happy to just get some points on the plate. Third place though is going to be a tough climb for the rest of the tour, but he's going to come good. His stablemate and the man that pushed him the hardest the whole way through last season, Dwayne Clennams, was actually leading this event and leading the race, and a crash late on in the final lap, went over the bars, smashed up his gear shifter, managed to kind of just drag himself and the bike home with a number 2 spot, but it's clear that he's not happy with that. He's aiming for wins, and nothing but wins this season. You know, he's undefeated in the low felt Enduro series so far this year. He's undefeated on the EWXCs. This is his year that he needs to get the number 1 plate. He's desperate for it. He just missed it last year, so Dwayno's going to be pushing hard. Number 2 is not a bad starting point though. Flanny, who was Yamaha's shining light last year in his category of racing, riding on the Proudly Bidvest colours with Blake as a teammate, he unfortunately had some problems. Hyperextended his knee early in the race. You guys know what I mean by that. That's ACL, and he's going to go see a specialist, he told me, tomorrow. That's Tuesday, and hopefully he can come right. But if it is a full ACL situation, whether it's a rip, a snap, or a tear, it ain't good. And he can maybe ride through some of the pain if he doesn't go for the big op, but he's not going to be riding at 100%. So it's an early season injury situation for him, and Yamaha are probably going to be looking to pick up another rider. I would probably suggest that they're going to be picking up William Oosthuizen to ride on the factory squad, so they can represent Proudly Bidvest Yamaha, and hopefully Flanny can keep himself running and keep going. But for now, we'll have to wait and hold our breath and see if he turns up in 2 weeks' time for the next round of the GXCCs, where he blew a bike up at the previous round. So he's having a bit of a rough time, old Flanny, but hopefully he can come right. So those are the big stories in the E1 and the E2 categories down at Cape Town. On the high school gate, the kid that came out of nowhere, Cade Manty, the KZN kid who took the high school win in the National Off-Roads just a couple of weeks back down in KZN. He is a specialist enduro rider. He is back from all his injuries that he had last year and the year before, and he's going to be hard to beat. So he walked away with the first win of the season. Good to see little Heinrich Aust, who's making the big step up. Remember, just last year he was racing on the junior tour, winning all the 85 races. This is his first year on 125s, and he's making podiums. So good to see Heinrich Aust actually representing for the Rad Junior Motos team on his big step up. But Cade Manty, you can see the size of the kid. He's going to be tough to beat, and he's going to be jumping up out of high schools into the Premier E1 and E2 categories pretty soon. For now, that's a nice little quick short wrap up of what happened down in Cape Town. For all accounts, looks like a good track, tough track. The guys were really getting beat by the heat, and I know that valley, it just doesn't breathe very well. You're just going to be sucking air the whole time. But good to see Wade take the first win of the season. Nice to see Travis back as well. Number 2 spot for him. William Oosthuizen, though, got to be the story and the ride of the event, and we're going to be keeping an eye on the big kid, see how he runs. He has moved over, as he did last year, from the big 450 onto the 250 smoker, and yeah, as long as he can stay training, stay skinny, stay strong, stay fit and healthy, he's an absolute powerhouse rider, and don't write him off for a win somewhere down the road as well. But a good chance for him was down at Cape Town to get some points on the page. 3rd place overall, E1 category win. 3rd place behind the likes of Wade and Double T. That's a nice podium to stand on. Very good play. From my side, there's nothing really on the page next week, but the week after that is the 3rd round of the GXCC, so we'll be reporting back from that. For now, just thanks to all of our sponsors and our supporters, to have Polysport on board. They're always rocking and rolling. The guys from Holeshot, they've got their helmet specials running, so go check those guys out. And the guys at Cayenne and Beta still got a big blowout special happening, and hopefully with Travis getting himself onto the box, he'll be shining a light, and we're trying to make a little bit more noise for Beta as well, as they try and get a foothold and try and go up against the might of the rest of the big players that obviously have a big foothold on the industry over here. For now, Hollywood signing out. Happy Easter. Hope you guys had a nice little break. If you're still on the road, travel safe, try and dodge all the roadblocks, and we'll see you back in the big smoke just around the bend. Later. Our buddies over here at Holeshot have got some incredible specials running at the moment. EVS helmets, they are stocked up to the gills, and they're pretty much blowing them out at 50% off. On the EVS T5 helmets, they're selling at 950 Rands. That's under 1,000 Rand. That is insane. And the EVS T7 helmets running at 1450, just under 15. So get across to Holeshot, they will hook you up.